Back on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. Police Minister Bheki Cele and the National Police Commissioner expected to speak about a high-profile case tonight. That briefing has now been postponed to 9 p.m. But we're joined now in studio by our Newzroom Afrika reporter, Mnisi, just to talk about the possibilities of what we could be hearing from that briefing. Linda, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. By the way, congratulations for getting Shamila Batoy. I mean, we've been trying.
Yeah, I just managed to doorstop her at that conference.
Yeah, absolutely good one. Let's look at this. I mean, there's a possibility that we could be getting a briefing about political killings in KwaZulu-Natal. There's a possibility we could be getting briefings about all sorts of things. But we are, of course, at this point, looking at this briefing on the backdrop of the publications that have been doing the rounds on social media from the Royal Eswatini newspaper, or the Times of Eswatini, shall I say. And they seem to suggest that there are two suspects that could have been nabbed in relation to the killing of AKA and his friend Tibbs Mutwane. So let's look at where we are right now. In December, Police Minister Bheki Cele revealed that the case is quite at an advanced stage in the sense that the weapon has been found, the vehicle has been found, and I think there's a possibility that there are witnesses under protection services.
Yeah, so and at the backdrop of that information, you'll remember that police have always kept mum about what was happening, always citing the fact that this case is at a sensitive stage and they can't reveal all the details. So we've been watching the case quite closely and looking at the developments in terms of, what is going to happen next, because there's a lot of talk on the ground. Sources are telling us a lot of information, but of course that information would have to be confirmed through the police. But many of it also, relates to the case, what the police have managed to do so far. But of course, some of our sources do in fact tell us that there is quite a lot of work that has gone into this case. But of course, police are also investigating and looking at, getting some of the people that are involved in this particular case. So, we don't really know what he's going to say at this particular point, but it looks like the Times of Eswatini are sticking to what they reported on. Today, they've released papers that, in fact, support what they've been reporting on, which looks like, of course, a document detailing the alleged involvement of the persons who are persons of interest in the murder of AKA and his friend Tibelo Mutwane, but also an application for a provisional arrest pending an extradition application. So some of the details that we're expecting to hear over and above whether or not these men are linked to this particular case are the issues around how it is that they're going to get to South Africa. Because here, these papers that are coming from Eswatini speak about an extradition. So it would also mean that, they perhaps were in Eswatini having papers, because otherwise, they would have been deported back to wherever they come from. So in this particular case, I'm
tempted at this particular point to take you back to another case that you're looking at, which could possibly involve this particular one, because I suppose that is also quite a sensitive stage in this matter, or otherwise we might end up having a case within a case once again, which is looking into how they would be brought back into the country.
Absolutely. I mean, as you rightfully point out, the Nandi Pamagudumana case, where the police said she was deported and they brought her back into South Africa where she was arrested. But in this case, what the Times of Eswatini have provided is a document that deals specifically with an application for a provisional arrest pending the application, of course, for an extradition, which would mean that obviously when they come back to South Africa, their intention is to prosecute. In those documents, in a different document, they further detail the alleged involvement of these men. In fact, that document, if you look at it quite well, it lists 3 people and the alleged involvement of those particular people. It speaks about warrants of arrest that were issued by a magistrate in KwaZulu-Natal for the arrest of these people, but also, like I said, detailing the alleged offences and their involvement, but also they are also linked to a Berea case where, of course, there was a shooting in that particular case. And it also takes us back to what the commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal said just yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, about these men not being involved in the AKA case, but being wanted for a separate case. So it's quite interesting, the circumstances around this particular case and what may come out of it.
So what then does this say about, I suppose, the nationality of these individuals if they now have to be extradited from Eswatini? Because up until now it was believed that this is a hit of some sort linked to a prominent family in KwaZulu-Natal, possibly in the taxi business, and these could have been individuals who would have come from that province.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the documents that the Times of Eswatini have released, they speak about how these men are in fact South Africans, and that is why I say that, it's going to be interesting looking at whether or not they entered Eswatini legally. And how, I know, the police minister will not tell us how exactly they came to know of their whereabouts, because, of course, everything that they say may be subject to a court case if these men decide to challenge it once they're back in South Africa. So we're expecting to hear some of those details in terms of how this process was undertaken. But most importantly, will the South African police concede that, in fact, these are the guys? And if they were hiding, what was the reason behind hiding this information? Did the Forbes and the Mutswane family be informed about the latest development in this case? Recently you would have heard the commissioner in KZN also saying that they are not necessarily communicating the developments with the family because of the sensitivity of the case itself. So does the family know? I know our team has tried to reach out to them, and they're saying they're not commenting on the developments, but do they know about this big development? Because this is a family, Thabo, that has been waiting for justice. This is a family that wants to know what happened to their son. There, of course, a lot of speculation on the ground, including that there was a lot of money that was paid for the assassination of Keenan Forbes, but that obviously we'll get to hear once the police come out with the information around what they have. It's going to also be interesting to understand why it is that they're hiding this information. Could it be that there are other people that they're pursuing and they fear that those people could get away? Do they know who those people are? And are there other people possibly linked? As I say, there's quite a number of speculations, even other people being involved.
So the provincial police commissioner saying to us yesterday, of course, the Mr. Forbes matter is still being investigated. In fact, saying there is a lot of evidential material that they've got a hold of that still needs to be processed. Also, it is a prosecution-led investigation. Tell us about that and why that is quite a significant thing for him to say.
It's quite significant because one of the things that they still need to do is determine where the evidential value of the material that they have. And you'll remember, once they're done with analyzing the evidence, they would have to, produce it to the NPA. And the NPA would have to decide on whether or not they've brought enough evidence for this matter to be enrolled. And they'll look at, obviously, some of the things that may, hamper the case going forward. So one of the things that they seem to or want to do is that they want to make sure that the process is meticulous and that, nobody, in a way, gets away.
Yeah, and messes up with the evidence. It has shifted, though, now to say it's the minister that's going to brief and possibly the National Police Commissioner, which in itself tells us where this matter could now be sitting.
Absolutely. This matter is of great public interest. A lot of people are invested in it. These are two high-profile individuals who are known in society, and obviously there's there has been, a call for justice in this matter. And one of the things that, even politicians themselves say is if the police can't crack a case involving a high-profile person, what does this mean then for ordinary South Africans who are not known? Will they ever get justice? And I guess this is one of the things that they want to do to restore, public confidence in the justice system. In fact, it's something that they spoke about at length today during that conference in Birchwood, talking about the confidence of the public in the criminal justice system and whether or not, they are seeing the prosecutions that they want.
Linda Mnisi, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on. Linda Mnisi, they're setting the scene for us. That briefing will happen just after 9. Some of what we are expecting to come out of that briefing.